Hey internets, it's Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, and this is Scribes and Scrolls, the Candlekeep Mysteries. We are starting tonight on Book 3, the Book of the Raven. This is Chapter 13, Map of Mystery. And as you can already see, we are down 2 of our players tonight. Dwight, unfortunately, has lost power. Not in the sense that I stole his power and he's powerless to play anymore, but he literally lost power at his home and can't play. And Jordan is not able to play as well tonight, so we send all of our positive vibes and good thoughts and everything to them. I believe Jordan might be lurking a bit in the chat, but we are going to drive on tonight and play for a little bit and see what happens with Doc, Teera the Sun-Maned, and Vornuk. So we'll get to that in just a moment. I want to take just a couple moments to, one, if you look up above where Jordan usually is, you can see that character art there for Assyria, Resha, and Soren. You see the plus 35 and a book there. Those are the domain tomes. Those are a way that you, the viewer, can have a little bit of an impact on the game by tipping $5, cheering 500 bits, subscriptions, gift subs, all that good stuff. Those will earn domain tomes for the players. They can use 1 domain tome to gain advantage on any one roll. They can use 3 domain tomes to re-roll, or they can spend 5 domain tomes. Nope. Yeah, 5 domain tomes to make me re-roll. I believe that's how it goes.
I think that was correct.
We have different rules for the different streams, so I'm trying to keep them straight. So yeah, just know that when you subscribe or resub or tip or cheer, that you are helping the players out. If you look down in the lower left-hand corner under where Dwight would be, you can see Mizya there. You'll see our channel sponsor and partner logos for Talon and Claw and Run Right Play. Be sure to check out, by typing !MTD Claw, the Talon and Claw store, where you can get some awesome dice accessories, dice trays, vaults, laser engraved coasters, all kinds of cool stuff. I just got in the mail today. You won't be able to see them very well, but you'll probably be able to hear them. These solid metal Thor's Ire dice that have like little streaks of lightning all through the metal. They're friggin' awesome. When you find what you want at the store and you get ready to check out, be sure to use code MTDClaw to get 10% off of your order. Also, when you got a few moments, head on over to the link that just popped up to check out the Patreon for Run Right Play. Our friend Keel has an incredible community of collaboration, and he puts out a zine every month showing off the talents of people within the community, and by way of presenting the zine and putting everything together, showing off his own talents. So please do check that out. Head on over there and support Keel. Let's see. I think that is about it. I'll try to remember to say this again at the end of the stream, but there will be no Dawnbringers this week. We are taking the week off. We're actually taking at least 2 weeks off. They are on the cusp of a major boss battle, and we want to make sure we have everybody available, all hands on deck for that. So we are going to be off for the next 2 weeks on Thursdays. Before we get started here in just a moment, I just want to remind everybody that if you're struggling, if you're here, you're struggling, you're overwhelmed, you have things going on in your life that are stressing you out or that have you in other ways preoccupied, and maybe you're just not doing okay. First of all, that's okay. It's okay to feel that way. But you don't have to do so alone, and you don't have to do so silently. And most importantly, you don't have to worry about where you can go to get some help. You can come here to Mini Terrain Domain any time of day or night, whether we're streaming or not, and you can simply type into the chat !HELP, HELP, and there'll be a little block of text there, and at the end is a URL. If you remember nothing else of what I've just said, remember this: findahelpline.com. That is an incredible resource for all sorts of mental health issues, things you may be struggling with. You simply put in where you're from in the world, and numerous links will pop up. I know when I type in where I'm from, something like 15 to 20 resources, everything from domestic abuse hotlines through suicide hotlines, anxiety, depression, alcohol abuse, whatever it may be. You'll be able to find something to connect to there. And I encourage you to please reach out if you need it. And even if you don't, bookmark that site. You never know when you might need it, or a friend might need it. So please do pass that resource around. It is a free resource that is available on the internet. So with that, I think it's about time to play some Dungeons and Dragons as we continue along with our adventure. Most recently, the gang traveled to Baldur's Gate, where they spent a bit of time making new friends, tracking down some booksellers, finding a pack of jackal-wares that were using magic to counterfeit some books, and try to make some money because they had a pack leader that was no longer with them, that they were hoping to be able to revive. They apologized profusely, provided the 3 books that had previously been missing or had turned into these King Watsum. They provided the originals to the gang to take back to Candlekeep as a sort of retribution for their deeds. They also had a run-in on the way to Baldur's Gate with somebody who they later found out, they're pretty sure, was Mushika, a were-rat who ran a highway robbery and a bit of a warehouse. They're fairly certain that Mushika's gang of were-rats is no longer a problem, as they went into the warehouse and took care of everybody who was in there, including the last remaining were-rat. And turned over the warehouse and the goods to the Amberdune clan or pack so that they could resell everything and hopefully make enough money to bring back their beloved Nadalia. Leaving on pretty good terms. Also, very important to note, before they left, they did get some of Autumn's breads, lovely fay cakes, D&D donuts, and they stopped by Heath's Hot and Cold Drinks, or HHC's, and got themselves engraved, personalized drinking horns with the HHC stamp on the bottom, as they are the first official members of the HHC Mug Club.
Woohoo!
Doc's less than impressed as somebody who doesn't need to eat or drink. So, while traveling back from Baldur's Gate, on one of the days,
I see what you did there, Teera.
On one of the days as they were traveling back, Teera was on guard duty in the wee hours of the morning and discovered that near their campsite there was a raven sitting by a book, pecking at it. Teera picked up the book, found some scrawled handwriting in there, no particular title to the book, but almost immediately found within the book that there was a mysterious map in the back of the book. I did show the players, and I will, when we come to it in story, I will show what that map looks like, as there is a little bit of a code not code, that's not the word I want. Rhyme. What do you call it? Clue.
Riddle.
Jeez. Words. Like, it's a clue, it's a rhyme, it's a code.
It's like a poem that is like
a clue.
What do you call that?
So, just making a note here. It is currently. Oh, the other thing that is, of course, very important to note. Assyria had a private audience with Corvala, the sort of leader of the Amberdune pack, to inquire about a mysterious mark that she has on her chest below her collarbone. And upon looking at it, this was after having a very peculiar dream. Upon looking at it, Corvala suddenly gasped and pulled back and informed Assyria that she had something called a sire's mark, meaning that a powerful lycanthrope has marked her. Though she's had this mark for 5 years. Corvala remarked that was very odd indeed, as those marked by a sire are usually turned within the next moon cycle. So that gave Assyria a little something to chew upon. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So by the time you get back to Candlekeep, it's another 6 days traveling. You've got your horses, you've got the wagon, and the rest of your trip was pretty uneventful. But we're actually going to start with you, Teera.
Yeah. Okay. What? I have the book. I have props. I'm so ready.
You are sitting outside. You are sitting outside of one of the huts of your village. Your jaw is still aching a bit. You can still taste that little bit of blood in your mouth. You knew that you shouldn't have taunted him. You gave him an opening and he took it. Who was it that dotted your eye and gave you a bloody lip?
It was probably Roniker is his name. He's kind of never really liked that I'm here. And yeah, I said the wrong thing in earshot, and he didn't like that too much either.
As you're sitting there, just kind of looking down, you see the blood dripping from your split lip, and it's already soaking into the dirt. You see a bit of a shadow fall across you, and looking up, you see Roniker standing there. I told you, if you didn't shut your mouth, I was going to shut it for you.
And I spit, and I like sit back and look at him, and I'm like, well, I'm sure this will deter me in the future. Noble orc. And I just kind of like look at him. I'm not breaking eye contact.
He stares at you for a moment. There's a couple other orcs, smaller, less muscular, thinner, standing behind him. His ever-present peanut gallery, just standing over his shoulder, waiting for what he's going to say next. He looks at you, and then he turns to the others, and he just says, "She's not worth any more." He spits on the ground, just barely missing, hitting your feet. You know, without a shadow of a doubt, that the reason he didn't say anything back is he's not smart enough to come up with a comeback. Him and his cohorts don't know this. As they go walking off, you hear their laughter receding in the distance. What would you do? Where would you go after your fight?
Honestly, like, Teera would honestly probably, oh god, this is stupid. Teera would probably call after him as he turns before she walks away. It's like, just be sure next time that you don't do anything stupid. And I point to his face where I got him a good one too. I tagged him once. And that's about. And then Teera kind of like at this point sort of stands there and sees if he has anything else to say. Calling him stupid is almost like as much as she is willing to insult him right this second.
He does that
but it's
thing.
One that cuts to the quick.
He does that thing where he is walking away with his pals, and he stops, and he doesn't turn. The one of them is in the middle of saying something, and he just holds up his hand, and he very slowly turns around. What did you say, you Zugog? Which is Orcish for bitch.
Mm-hmm. And Teera stands up a little straighter, spits one more time, and just said, you heard me? You have anything else to say about it? And I'd say a slur back at him in Orcish, essentially calling him like kind of shiftless, lazy piece of shit.
He suddenly kicks out. He's a good 20 feet away from you at this point. You see him kick out at where there's a sort of a makeshift drying rack set up, and there's these long poles that are about 4.5, 5 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
And they're sharp on the one end where they've been stuck down into the ground. Yeah. He kicks out in a way that knocks the drying rack down, but also hooks his foot under and sort of pulls that up.
Oof.
And he now has a makeshift spear in his hands, and he's going to chuck it at you.
Shoot. Well, okay. I guess I want to try to dodge it.
So he is going to. Okay, I'm going to roll my brand new Thor's Ire.
Oh, good. Break those puppies in.
Fortunately, this thing is not made. This stick is not made for being a spear.
Mm-hmm.
And though it was pretty impressive how he pulled it up, he didn't think through that part of it. And as he hurls it towards you, it leaves his hand and just sort of goes and just veers off, not even in danger of hitting you. It doesn't even stick in the ground. It just lands with a clatter.
I kind of watched this whole thing, and as I turned back to him, Teera kind of like her lip curls up a little bit, and she's like, yeah, solid. I can see why they're giving you a chance to run a vanguard again. You've improved so much. And then at this point, Teera does turn her back to him and starts to head back towards the stable where she still has work to do for the day.
You head back to the stables. As you turn away from this confrontation with Ronaker, you're suddenly holding a pitchfork. And you're in the midst of shoveling, mucking out stables. You didn't walk here. It's just suddenly you're here.
Just happens. Mm.
Yeah. This is your first indication you have that this is a dream.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a perception check.
13.
As you're mucking out the stables, you hear something near the entrance to the stable. You look, and there's a raven perched on one of the posts just outside the door.
I turn and look at it, and then I kind of like stick the pitchfork in for a second and like wipe off my hands. And I just keep looking at it. I just stare at it and see what it does. If it does anything.
It's looking at you and sort of cocking its eyes, and every once in a while it just makes a not very loud, kind of hops from post to post.
I go out there and I want to I kind of smile. This is almost a familiar sight by now. And I want to go out and I want to try to pet him.
Give me an animal handling check.
Oh God. God. Animal. Oh. That's a 4.
As you get within about 6 feet of it, it flutters up to the lower edge of the roof of the stable. Mm-hmm. And you hear it again. Ah! Doran! Doran!
Oh, shit. Teera's about ready to like chuck a rock at it to scare it off. And as it sounds eerily familiar to a name I know, I kind of my eyebrows furrow and I listen again and just watch it some more.
Doran! It flies off overhead. And it flies out of the edge of the village and to a branch of a tree that is on the edge of this, probably about maybe 50 feet away where the woods are a little thicker right there. Lauren!
Oh my God. I run and I chase after it.
As you start
the rock that I had in my hand.
As you start chasing after it, it flies up ahead and it keeps leading you. Calling after you. Dorn! Dorn!
I sprint. Like normally Teera throughout her young life has kind of had to maintain this veneer of kind of stoicism, staid sort of chill at all times. It is gone, and she is absolutely sprinting, unabashed, following this raven.
You keep following it. Give me a Constitution check.
I'm going to go ahead and roll this with advantage, please. Can I get a tome?
Absolutely.
Constitution is a nat 20 for a total of 25.
You're running through these woods, not paying attention to where you're going at all. You're only chasing after this raven. You're not on any familiar paths. It's not even really fully registering with you that there's not a thick wood like this immediately next to the stables. There never was in the camps. You're just following after this raven. And you're keeping pace with it. You're almost catching up to it, to a point where for the last probably 5 minutes or so, the bird doesn't even have a chance to land. It's just constantly flying. It's flying right about head height. You're getting close enough that you can almost reach it. Make me a dexterity saving throw.
Okay. Oh, I have advantage on dex while I'm not blinded or deafened. Here we go. Okay. I rolled 2 5s. That's a dex saving throw of 7.
You're paying so close attention to this bird that you don't see the large log covered in moss and leaves that was crossed this path, or lack of path. It was across your path. And you go sprawling. You were running so fast, you probably skid a good 8 feet in the gravel and leaves and sticks. It hurts. You get the wind knocked out of you.
Ooh.
You involuntarily close your eyes, and when you open them, you are staring into the dead face of a man. Scraggly beard, dirty, blood running out of his broken jaw.
Does he look familiar?
No.
Oh shit. I stand up. I kind of like scramble away from it for a second, but then I like get to my feet as quickly as I can.
You see that you have sprawled right into the midst of 6 dead men, all similarly dressed in leather armor, wearing sort of raggedy looking tunics. All of them have sword wounds or blunt wounds. A couple of them have arrows sticking out of them. It's hard to tell how long they've been dead. They don't appear to be decomposed, but they've been here for a little while. Behind you, you hear Torn! It sounds like it's right behind you.
I whirl around.
You turn around and you see your brother. He is wrapped in a blue cloak. He has on the thin leather trousers, the thin shoes that were not meant for traveling. You can see his skin is sort of blotchy and cold looking. His lips are a little bit blue from the cold, but his eyes are what catch you. His eyes are pure black, and he opens his mouth,
God.
and you hear Darren.
Oh man. Teera, I imagine, would have turned around and just has a sort of this perpetual scowl on her face that she kind of has most of the time. And then as soon as she sees that for a second, it just falls away. It just melts. And she's just like staring kind of jaw agape at her brother. But then as she notices these strange oddities about his appearance, it's guarded. Her face is guarded. It's not the scowl that it was while she was chasing the raven and while she was talking to Vornuk, but it's guarded still. And she looks at this, what she still thinks is probably a little boy, and she just kind of looks at me. Torin. And she kind of starts to step towards him, kind of with her hand outstretched in front of her.
He holds both of his arms slightly apart and out towards you.
I walk very quickly and I collapse and I hold him. I want to hold him in my
As you
arms.
go to grab him, there's a sudden burst of wings and feathers as the figure that was your brother explodes into a flock of ravens, or what is known as a kindness of ravens. Feathers everywhere. They're flapping in your face. Some of them, it doesn't seem malicious, but they're scratching you a bit as this entire flock of birds is suddenly flying past you, and suddenly your eyes are open as you hear, "Ah, Torrin!" Your eyes open, and you're lying in bed, in your bed, in the house of rest. You're staring up at the wood beam ceiling in your small room with 2 windows in this room. You can feel the still cool spring air coming in through the partially open shutters. And you hear outside of one of the windows you just hear this sort of.
I look out the window.
The shutters are closed.
I go and open the shutters and then look out the window.
As you open up the shutters, you see just on this little piece of roof that goes below where you're in one of the upper floors. There's a little bit of roof that goes out, and you see that there's a raven perched there, and it's just pecking at the shingles on the roof. And as you throw open the shutters, it looks at you for a second. It opens up its beak, and you just hear, and it flies away.
I imagine Teera kind of watches this for a second and then just sort of like she's been kind of like sitting by like the edge of the window and then just like rests her forehead kind of on the edge of the window as the power of just waking up sort of overwhelms her again. And then she just kind of like punches kind of lightly the wall right beside the window and then like punches it again and then again and then again and then again, and with a little bit more force every single time, and eventually just collapses and her knuckles are bloody and cries as quietly as she can.
Doc, you all got in late enough that there was nobody really to talk to in terms of the scholars. There were a couple scholars that were in the hearth, but they appear to have been there for several hours before you arrived and were in no state to really carry on intelligent conversation. And most of the rest of the group decided to deal with things in the morning, call it a night, brought your wagon and horses back to the stables. What did you do during the night, Doc?
Doc unmutes himself.
First things first.
And he's been experimenting with his alchemy set. And on the way back from Baldur's Gate, he was feeding Teera various concoctions of different types of potions that he was making.
Oh my god.
And so he found a use for his mug club horn. And so occasionally he would touch the flask, and inside there would be he'd put some stuff inside it, and one time she got like a horn, another time she was able to fly. So he's pondering these experiments that he's been undertaking, and he got a flash of something. It was half of a memory as he was in the their first night there, as he was in the tavern, it was a room darkly, no light at all, but it was illuminated by a flash of lightning with strange equipment and all sorts of beakers and materials. It was almost like a laboratory of some kind. And as he's playing with the alchemical vials in his new alchemy set, he has this flash of recollection, but it's gone almost as soon as it arrives.
Just continuing to play around with your concoctions, trying to figure out what kind of mixtures you can make.
Yeah.
Where were you doing this now that you're back at Candlekeep?
In the tavern, because he's hoping that somebody's going to come and keep him company.
So you're in there all night.
Yes.
Okay.
He doesn't need sleep or food or air.
Upgrades.
The hearth for which the tavern gets its name continues to burn at the same steady level all throughout the night, keeping the place well lit and at just the right temperature. You notice perhaps that nobody ever has to come and add wood to it or any other type of fuel. It just seems to burn continuously. You did learn prior to leaving that this is one of the only allowed flames, or one of very few allowed flames within the walls of Candlekeep. So nobody bothers you, as you occasionally are mixing things up, and then eventually, at some point, you hear the door open up, and you see that for a moment the morning light that's coming through the door is completely blocked as a very large figure ducks under the lintel and walks in, as you see little one enter the tavern.
Hello.
He had turned around to slowly close the door, and he actually sort of, you see this big form just sort of turn around. Oh, you gave me quite a fright there, Doc. I wasn't expecting anybody to be here.
Where else would I be?
Well, I've seen you for the better part of a 10-day or more.
Oh.
Not since the memorial service for Matreus, actually.
Oh. That's true. Then I suppose my appearance is unexpected.
Very much so. I was quite startled.
Little one, have you met my new friend?
Little one sort of looks around. I'm sorry, I've not met... Well, I've met some of your friends.
My friend.
He sort of leans, then slowly leans the other way. You hear the floorboards creaking under his weight. Oh, I thought that was a bit of forced perspective. That I was seeing something that was sitting on the shelf in the background, and I perceived it to be closer. But it is, in fact, a flying flower pot hovering just about you.
Yes, that's true. His name is Frank. Say hello, Frank.
Hello, Frank.
I can't.
Be polite. You should at least respond in kind.
It's
You need to
okay,
work on his
Frank.
conversation skills.
It's okay, Frank. Social anxiety plagues many individuals, and I am not offended if you're unable to greet me. You will do so in your own time.
Okay. What are you doing here?
Oh, well, I like to come here just about every morning in the wee hours before everybody's up and about. I'll crack open a book and get at least an hour or so of reading before everybody starts coming in for breakfast and such.
That seems like a wonderful hobby. Reading in the morning, I mean.
I enjoy it quite a bit, reading in the morning, reading in the afternoon, reading in the evening, reading by a lake, reading by a river, reading on a boat, reading in a moving wagon, reading on a rooftop, reading at the top of a tower of a castle, reading in a tree, reading while sitting at the bottom of a tree, reading while fishing, reading while cooking, reading while cooking something I've read in a cookbook. I could go on. The list does go quite a bit.
Well, don't let me stop you.
If you don't stop him, little one will continue to list off all of the places he enjoys reading. Just on a side chat.
It is. I swear to God.
It's totally the Bubba Gump scene.
So I could be like shrimp gumbo, fried shrimp, baked shrimp, boiled shrimp.
Yep, if you don't stop him, he's just gonna start just listing off all these different places.
Amazing.
And eventually, I'll say it's almost an hour goes by before he stops listing off places. 15 minutes go by.
That's a lot of places. When you think about talking straight for 15 minutes,
Oh,
just
yeah.
naming places.
And he
Just rattled
says,
off like 10.
he says, now, in full disclosure, more than 50% of that list is places I would like to spend more time reading, but I have at least read a little bit in every one of those places.
Have
I've
you
read a
ever
lot of books.
Have you ever read While Flying in the Air?
Oh, God.
I have never flown. In all the time I've been here at Candlekeep, they've got no airships what's come here,
Oh, my
so
God.
I have not had an opportunity to fly amongst the clouds. I've tried time and again to get permission to ride upon the hippogriffs, but they say I'm too big. Hippogriffs aren't made for ogres, they tell me.
Doc's smile is unsettling.
Yeah.
Forgive me if this seems rude, Doc, but are you smiling? I can't really tell.
Isn't this how you do it?
If you've ever seen an ogre smile, it's probably just as much of a grimace as he just... His mouth keeps opening and you just see rows of jagged, broken, some sharp teeth. As the two of you bury your teeth in each other.
Doc is like, and he holds up his mug, and he goes like this, and then he pours something from his alchemy set inside, and then he sort of, and then he hands it to little one.
Oh, God.
But wait, no, just a minute. And he says, please come with me. And he opens the door and says, after you.
All right. He reaches down and grabs his book that he had set down on the chair next to him. And he once again ducks it low. A couple of sages are coming in for breakfast and excuse me. Looks around. It's actually a pretty nice day. Nice spring day, getting near the end of the month. And the month of Tarsak.
So
All
Doc is gonna look at him and he's like, you have your book, right?
I do. I just picked this one up. I'm not sure what to expect. It's called The Wilds Beyond the Witchlight.
Sounds a little derivative to me, but whatever works for you is okay.
All right.
And then he's gonna hand the horn to little one, and he's gonna say, "Okay,
Wait,
drink
hand him the
that."
horn.
Hand him the horn, Gary. Yeah.
Now,
Pardon
drink
me,
that.
I don't want to be rude.
Mhm.
There's no alcohol in here, is there? I'm a bit
Oh,
of a
no.
teetotaler.
No, not at all. It's a magic potion that I made. Well, it's not so much of a magic potion as an alchemical creation made from a series of derived ingredients that I've collected over time.
Oh, yes. I've read a bit of alchemical manuals. It's a little bit over my head. I mean, I understand quite a bit. The actual mixing of reagents and acids and bases and all that, it's just a little bit more than I can grasp from a practical nature. But I appreciate that you are making this a focus of your study.
Mhm. I imagine that not a lot goes over your head because you're quite tall.
This is quite true.
Mhm. Okay, so this is Frank, as I said, and he's flying. See?
Without a doubt.
Okay, so drink the potion. Okay,
Oh my god. Oh my god.
now take your book in your left hand.
Right, got my
Okay.
book.
Okay, now think in your mind that in front of you is a set of invisible stairs. And now, with your book in your left hand, you're going to walk up the stairs straight up into the air.
That's rather contrary to a book I read by the nihilist Douglas Adams, who said that in order to fly, you had to throw yourself at the ground and try to miss.
Hmm. Did that same scholar not write that the answer to everything was 42? Because conveniently, there are
Indeed.
42 reagents in this potion. So you should just start walking.
All right, I'll take your word for it, Doc.
I don't
And
lie.
he takes his book and he closes his eyes for a moment. And he begins to walk forward, imagining that he's walking upstairs.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
I can almost feel it. It's as if
Yeah.
I'm actually walking up.
Hmm. And so he's
When should I
walking,
open my eyes, Doc?
no, you're I'm gonna wait till he gets up above I'm only gonna let him go 10 feet before he opens his eyes. Okay, so open your eyes.
All right. Wait, where'd you go? Oh, by the gods! Hold on, I want to see how he deals with this. I have not considered whether or not little one is afraid of heights.
Oh my god. Even if you're afraid of heights or not afraid of heights, you'd be a little nervous if you were suddenly flying, I feel like. It's phenomenal.
I don't know what's happening. He's suddenly very still. He puts out both hands. I don't know what's happening, Doc. I'm afraid to move. For
Okay.
fear that I might plummet to my death.
Doc looks at the sun, and then he sort of sticks his thumb out. Oh no, you have about 9 minutes and 30 seconds left. You're okay. You're flying because you said you never read a book when you're flying. So what I did was I
Oh.
put 42 reagents together in that horn. I mixed them all up and I gave it to you so that you could fly and read a book at the same time. You can go as high as you want, but I warn you, you should try and come down fairly quickly and not in the falling way, because that would end poorly for everyone. I mean, mostly poorly for you, but I would be sad too.
Make a persuasion check with advantage.
This is exquisite. Quality content.
22.
Doc, I don't know if anybody's ever told you this before, but you have an absolutely incredible bedside manner. Both your voice and your manner of speaking and the words you say, I found very comforting and soothing. I fully understand now what is happening. And if I'm sure that I get what you're saying, for about another 8 minutes, I can fly about. Yeah?
Yeah. And then as Doc sort of looks up at little one and he looks down at himself. And he's gonna pull some stuff out of his satchel. He's gonna mix it all together. He's gonna pour it in the drinking horn, and then he is going to take a swig from the drinking horn as well. He is going to walk up 10 feet of invisible stairs. He is going to take little one's hand, his right hand in Doc's left hand, and he's gonna say, "Don't worry, I've got you. Let's go."
Doc, make a strength check.
It's like that scene in Superman.
I'm going to
Or the boy who could fly.
roll with advantage using
Or
a tome.
Aladdin.
You're going to take a tome?
Yeah, athletics.
Yeah, athletics.
I can show you the world.
That's right.
18.
All right, 1 second.
Phenomenal. We got
You got an
content for days here
18.
at Scribes and Scrolls.
I got a natural 20
Oh.
for a 24. Doc, you're going for a ride.
Okay.
Little one looks at you
Neo.
and says, I cannot thank you enough for this. Do you trust me?
Do you trust me?
That's a wonderful question.
He doesn't wait for any other answer besides that.
Can we really ever trust any? What?
You now fly, I believe, grants a fly speed of 50 feet. Yeah.
That is a great question. One moment.
Yeah.
No, it is flying speed of 10 feet.
Oh,
for 10
10.
minutes.
Okay. Okay. So not quite as fast, but you're still being dragged by an ogre by the hand as he proceeds to fly as high as he can. Now that's 10 feet per roughly 6 seconds.
Mhm.
So that's 60 feet in a minute.
Mhm.
So
Which is how many miles per hour, Jake?
I have no idea.
Okay.
You're not my math teacher.
Distance over time or something like that is the
Equal
equation.
to the weight of an unladen swallow.
So it takes a minute to go 60 feet. So I'm just banking on that there's 8 minutes left. So you spend about
300.
3 minutes climbing and at an angle until you fly over top of the walls over the main inner part of the main. You can see below you just a mishmash collection of buildings that look like they were transplanted from all different parts of Faerun. Some of them are very tall, some of them are small, some are wide. It's what's beyond the emerald door you're looking down on, as little one is having you fly up to a height equivalent to the tallest tower, a couple 100 feet up, and then for a moment stops and looks at you. Are you all right?
I think so. Yes, I seem fine. And then Doc is going to look at. He's gonna stick his thumb out, and he's gonna say, "Only about 4 minutes left, little one." And then he's gonna look little one right in the eye. He's gonna say, "Do you trust me?"
I think you've demonstrated that you are one of the most trustworthy individuals I know.
Okay. Go straight up as fast as you can.
All right. And he does so.
Frank is trying to keep up and does so easily because his flying speed is 30 feet.
If there's 4 minutes left, then he can get 400 additional feet in the air.
Are you following behind him, or is Frank?
I have.
You're still holding his hand?
I'm holding his hand. I haven't let it go.
So as you're flying up higher and higher, he holds up in his other hand the book, which is blowing against the wind, but with his big hand, ogre hands, he holds it open. Once every 8 years, the fantastic Witchlight Carnival touches down in your world, bringing joy to one settlement after the next. Its owners, Mr. Witch and Mr. Light, know how to put on a good show. But there's more to this magical extravaganza than meets the eye. And he continues to read a little bit of the opening. What he's actually reading is the blurb and review of The Wild Beyond the Witchlight. And he only does so for about a minute. He does so for about a minute, and then he just looks at you and says, I wanted to honor the true purpose of what you did for me, Doc. To be able to read while flying.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm happy that I was able to make that dream come true. Even though it wasn't a dream that you had, it was a dream that I put in your head. But technically, it was still a dream at some point in your mind. Right?
I think this will be all I dream about for a while.
And then Doc realizes that the spell is about to come to an end. And he's like, okay, little one, don't let go. And he's going to cast Featherfall on both of them. And they're going to float back down to the ground.
So here's the thing. You start to float back down. And you will.
Yeah.
You absolutely will. However, because at this point, you've probably flown about 300 to 400 feet in the air.
Mm-hmm.
You get to where you're about maybe 250 to 300 feet. It's hard to tell exactly above Candlekeep. And you feel yourself falling downward, but then you start going at an arc away from where you were targeting. And you start sliding. I'm going to roll to determine what direction you're going. You are rolling, or rather you are sliding towards the northwest edge of Candlekeep along what appears to be an invisible magical barrier that prevents anybody from magically flying into Candlekeep. You're allowed to leave, but you apparently can't come back in this route. You are continuing to fall. You're technically not touching anything, so the spell's still carrying you along. And eventually, you land. As you slide down, you sort of come alongside the edge of the outer walls of Candlekeep, and you fall another 50 feet down into some rough grass and rocks, and you are in a little traveled area not far from the shore on this peninsula. And it's probably a good 20-30 minute walk around to get back to the gate to get back in. Little one just looks at you as you sort of, both of you drop down to the ground, and he just lets himself fall and fall back into the dirt and grass with his arms and legs sort of spread wide. And he just goes, that was absolutely amazing.
Well, I'm glad that you liked it. Now you've read in one more place. So the next time you tell somebody all the places that you've read, you can add while flying.
Oh my God.
He just keeps doing that thing as you start walking to head back towards the entrance of Candlekeep. Every once in a while, as you're walking along together, he just kind of goes, huh. Ah. Oh, man. Just completely like, I can't believe I was just up there a few minutes ago. I have this vision of at some point in this morning as Teera had woken from this dream slash nightmare and was pounding against the window frame and slumped down to the floor with your back against the window, tears coming down your face. Somewhere in the background, you see Doc and Little One.
It's like one of those like Marvel like movies where it's like, did you notice in this scene that you can actually see da 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 da? Awesome.
Frank, be honest. How would you rate our flying technique out of 10? Six. You need to get out more.
Frank is a catty bitch.
So,
And we'll happily walk back to Candlekeep with Little One.
so Vorn,
Yes.
as in the similar fashion, you along with everybody else, you went to sleep pretty quickly after arriving. It was getting pretty late at night, and you had pushed on those last few miles with lanterns hanging on the wagon, and eventually everything was put away and put up, and you were able to go retire to your room in the House of Rest. You find that when you return to your room that night, that the room has been tidied up, the bedclothes appear to have been changed, and there is a little bit of a there's a pitcher with some water and a basin. Would you go right to sleep, or would you do anything else before going to sleep?
Vorn's first gonna unbuckle his armor and kind of set it on the side and take off his gauntlets. Remove his goggles and kind of stretch out. And he puts on a smaller pair of goggles for sleeping time.
Sleeping goggles.
You know, these are a little more loosely and more comfortable. They have little cushions on the side of them. He takes the pours a small cup of water and kind of swishes it around his mouth, and I'm assuming there's like a little washbowl he can kind of spit out into, and kind of rubs both of his fangs and he stretches, and then he opens up his journal. He jots a few notes about the were rats, the Candlekeep, Mud Club, things like that. And takes off his boots and kind of sits on the corner of his bed. Just a general getting ready for bed routine.
In this room, much like in the hearth, you've seen the rooms do have, primarily for the spring and winter and fall months, small fireplaces in them. They operate much like what you've seen from the demonstration, or probably heard of the demonstration that Teera saw, where the dwarf blacksmith threw the lantern and the fire refused to consume anything. That fires cannot get out of control here, but there's a small fireplace that there's just a little bit of wood burning in there, casting a little bit of light around. You can hear the snap and pop of the logs, that sort of rushing sound of the fire. You can hear distantly out the window, you hear it's almost has just a steady the sound of the surf on the rocks to the west. You can hear some of the crickets and frogs in the marshy area outside. You hear a little bit of conversation outside as well. As you're just sitting there, your boots off, sitting on the edge of the bed, and you see the shadows dancing around from the chair and the stand with the basin and the water pitcher on it. And as you're sitting there, you notice that the shadows become more pronounced. The light seems to grow dimmer. You don't hear the crickets. You don't hear the sound of the surf. You don't hear the voices that were outside. The only thing you hear is your own heartbeat, the blood rushing in your ears. And then,
Warren
go ahead.
starts taking like deep breaths. He's looking in the corners of the room, looking for an assailant, looking for danger. He
Give me a perception check.
himself. Perception.
There is most definitely danger.
16.
You see movement in one of the corners of the room. You see movement in the other corner of the room. You see movement out of the corner of your eyes. The shadows seem to be moving.
Vorn is looking for his axe and his glaive and sees neither because he put them in the corners of the room where his armor is, and he just kind of puts his fist together.
Make me a Constitution saving throw.
Do it with advantage, Ricky. Ricky, do it with advantage. Hunter's mark. Do it. It's 1. We have 34 that the fans of Mini Terrain Domain here at Scribes and Scrolls Candlekeep
All right,
Mysteries
I'm
have
going to
given
use
us.
an advantage, and I'm going to throw it with an advantage.
Yay.
All right.
Boy.
And it still only gets a power 10.
You try to clench your you try to clench
it out.
you try to clench your hands into fists.
Mhm.
You realize you are paralyzed.
Ooh.
You cannot move your hands. You cannot move to stand, to sit back. All you can do is sit. You can't even move your head to the side. You watch helplessly as the shadows detach themselves from the walls. As they do so, make me an insight check.
I'm going to re-roll that.
Shoo. 30.
Re-roll. Here it comes.
This is the one.
Wow, I rolled the same numbers
You
twice.
gotta love when that happens.
Cursed.
Yeah.
So what is that number?
It's 8.
Okay. You don't recognize the faces of the shadows that step forward, but in the dim light of the fire, you do notice that the shadows hold the features of orcs all around you. You see, as far as you can look to your left without moving your head, and looking ahead and sort of off to this side is sort of where the corner of the room is. The fire is right over here. There's a door right over there. All of these shadows, there's a couple of windows in this room. You see what appears to be more orcs standing just inside the shadows. They're like just at the edge of your periphery. More orcs than should be able to fit into this room, let alone to have been there when you walked into the room. And you watch straight ahead of you as the crowd of shadow orcs, you can just make out what their eyes, where the firelight is reflecting these little pinpoints of light, and you see the movement as groups of them start to look inward, and ahead of you a whole crowd of shadow orcs parts, and a figure begins to walk forward out of the shadow. Unlike these orcs, you can hear the footsteps on the floorboards of your room. You can hear the creaking of the boards as they step forward, walking towards you, where all of the others are shrouded in shadow. This orc is ringed in purple light as if by the fairy fire spell. You can see her outline completely. Her hair seems to be flowing on an invisible wind. You recognize who this orc is. This orc is your mother. Vornusa.
Vorn is speechless. He's looking mouth agape, and out of as much strength as he can muster, he goes, "A mother?" It can't be. It can't.
Vornuk. She reaches down and just with the finger lifts under the chin, lifts your face forward where you couldn't move it all the way up to look up at her. You feel her hand touching you. It's a familiar, everything about her is familiar. It's your mother.
And I can even, there's a faint remembrance of smell that the way a baby knows his mother, and the tender touch of both strength and comfort and softness is in that finger lifting. And in that moment, Vorn remembers the times when he was a baby on his mother's back while she slew monsters and beasts. He remembers when he was beat up by the other orcs in the tribe and how she lifted his chin. He remembers the moment where she taught him how to fight and beat him within an inch of his life and lifted his chin.
You see a little bit of a smile curl around her fangs, her tusks, as she sees what you see. She sees the memories that you see. Then she lets go of your chin, but you are paralyzed, so you can't put your head back down. You're just stuck looking directly at her. Vornuk, remember, above everything else that you remember, Vornuk, you are worthy. And the voice seems to fill your ears, fill the room around you. And as she says this, she takes that same finger that she used to lift your chin and reaches forward, and you can see the long, sharp nail, the way she liked to keep her nails sharpened for battle. But it's with the pad of the finger that she touches the mark of shame on your forehead. She presses in hard. And you see all around the room a purple light that seems to be emanating from you, cutting into the corners of the room. And for a moment, you see at first dozens, then scores, and then hundreds of spirits of orcs surrounding you. And you know, without a doubt, these are your ancestors. These are of the bloodline of Ornuza, the bloodline that is yours. And her words, "You are worthy," are still ringing in your ears as this purple glow fills the room, so bright that the shadow spirits cannot maintain their presence. And they fade away. She looks at you. You still see that smile. She doesn't turn. She just looks at you, and you see pride and expectation in her eyes as your mother fades away. And all around you, the purple glow continues. It persists. And then it begins to die down. And you hear the snap and crackle of the logs in the fire. You hear the crickets and the frogs outside. You hear the hooting of an owl. You hear the distant of the sea crashing against the shore outside the peninsula. And your chin dips just a little bit as you regain muscle control. As you look over to your left, where the wash basin is, and the pitcher of water, and even the table that they're sitting upon. And all three of them are levitating. And the moment you recognize them as levitating, they crash to the ground.
And as they crash, in the instant they crash, Vorn lets out like a deep exhale, like, and for a brief moment in exhaustion and emotional, being overwhelmed, he goes down to a knee and he begins to feel himself like rack with weeping. And then after about 3-4 seconds, he brings himself back up to a knee and he says, "Yes, mother."
For just a moment, in the tavern, shortly after you're there, Doc, you're seated at a table, and you're just beginning to mix some reagents together, and through the window you see next door the House of Rest. Something catches your eye, and you could have swore for just a moment that you saw a purple glowing coming from one of the windows. But it's not there when you look up. And we're going to go ahead and take a short break right there.
Wow. He's a Jedi, dudes. He's a Jedi.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody who's tuned in so far. We're going to take about a 10-minute break, and we'll be right back to squeeze a little bit more game in before we call it a night. So stick around. We'll see you in just a few moments.
Woohoo! Hurrah! Woo! See, that's why we got to use those rerolls, team. And advantages.
Oh, there we go. Eventually, I'd unmuted you guys, but not myself, apparently. Thank you, Acerson. I'm glad I glanced at chat. So, morning comes. You are able to do what you want. Just a reminder, you have... You have the Mazfroth's Mighty Digressions. And a point of inspiration, if any of you can tell me what the other two books are that you have.
Born
A
as Mizya. What's the
Guide
first?
to extra
son of
dimensional
a-
spaces.
You son of a...
And
Ask Mizya.
Not the books you've gone through already. The books that you were given by the Amber Dunes.
oh, hmm.
So Vorn asks Mizya a meta way to get around that. Yes, yes, I have the books here. Mazfroth's Mighty Digressions, The Dark Hunger, and Fallen Tethiamar.
Mizya, how was your rest back in town?
I rested well.
And Vorn looks over at Asira. What's Asira doing? Assyria.
I would say Assyria is probably Assyria's probably taken Sorin outside of the walls for a little bit of a walk.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So you have the 3 books. You know that you're going to have to give those back. You had, prior to leaving, you had spoken, of course, to your avowed guide, the young tiefling by the name of Irony, and your patron for your efforts in now working as investigators for Candlekeep is one of the great reader Telis Avaste. What are you all doing? Are you going over to the hearth for breakfast? Are you going to go seek out the great reader or your avowed? How would you like to proceed? Does anybody have anything they specifically want to do? You're sort of in this downtime.
Vorn wants to talk to a librarian. Well, I should say Vorn is hungry. We've been on the road. and looking for a nice meal that hasn't been cooked, like with rabbit meat and something that's been made in the kitchen. And you know, and also if the rest of the group agrees to get some breakfast at the Candlekeep IHOP, Vorn would also like to figure out where the librarian, because he has some questions that he needs he's found a new path in research he wants to go down.
Okay.
Doc is looking for scrap metal. So basically, as they're wandering around, basically everyone he sees is like, "Excuse me, do you know where I can find scrap metal? Just broken pieces of metal that nobody wants anymore. I'll take them." Oh,
So very grumpy looking, gray bearded dwarf.
oh. I didn't understand anything you said, but I understand that you pointed in a particular direction. Does that mean the scrap metal is going to be where you pointed?
Listen, young man. I'm going to give you a good piece of advice while you're here at Candlekeep.
While I'm here at Candlekeep, you're going to give me a piece of advice. Yeah.
In the early morning hours, you want to be very careful about to whom you speak while they're on their way to breakfast. They've obviously not had breakfast. They've not had breakfast ale or coffee or any other sustenance. We are less inclined to answer favorably. If you're looking for scrap metal, go see Colonel Hammerbein at the stables.
Oh, the stables. Yes, he and I are friends. Okay, well, I hope you enjoy your breakfast. I haven't eaten breakfast ever. It's not the most important meal of the day. Clearly.
To each his own. If you're done. And he just turns and starts walking, or continues walking to the hearth.
Bye. Thank you. Doc will go to the stables as soon as he has an opportunity.
Okay.
Vorn is smelling the air. Where is the smell of cooked meat coming from?
Immediately next door in the hearth, you can smell breakfast is cooking. You smell breads, you smell meats, you smell bacons and sausage.
Bell peppers and onions and
absolutely
garlic and yeah. Vorn kind of rubs one of his tusks and he's like, yeah. And his stomach lets out a Teera, morning chow.
You're muted.
Sorry. I said I think Tira's probably already in the hearth when Vorn comes in. Sitting at the bar, eating breakfast, having coffee. Might be something in the coffee, but you can't exactly tell. Vorn, good morning.
Morning. And Vorn's feeling a little more confident, his back's a little straighter, and he's like, whatever the breakfast scrambler is, which is kind of like the eggs and everything thrown into a big skillet and scrambled together with whatever kind of D&D eggs we have.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yep.
You got a little spring in your step this morning. You sleep well.
Yeah, you could say that. Huh. Kind of looks around. And he's wondering, can I move that object over there? Yeah. And he takes a swig of that coffee that he gets, and he's just can't wait for that scrambler to get to him. And I hope it comes like in this big hot, how they serve like fajitas and a sizzling
like a sizzling skillet.
Yeah, sizzling skillet. That's what I'm
100%. 100%.
Yeah, one of the barmaids comes over and absolutely brings a bunch of food. There's like a big basket of Red Lobster's biscuits and honey for you. The Red Lobster. She says the Red Lobster's a vessel that's currently moored at the docks outside. Their cook on board's the only one that knows how to make these properly. And she absolutely sets down from a tray these piping hot skillets. They're careful, the pan's hot. As she doles out all of your food.
Yeah, and Vorn does that thing when you eat something that's really hot and you blow it when you're trying to eat, like. Yeah. And he reaches in his pocket and puts like 5 gold on the table and is like,
Aw. Steam is just coming out of it.
yeah. And he looks over at Teera, hot. You know, people always say like it's exactly what they expect it to be, hot.
Kind of without asking, Teera reaches over and grabs one of Vorn's biscuits. And I'm like, I think I've heard of these. I think they come from the Cheddar Bay. They're supposed to be really good. And I take a bite of one and I'm like, yeah, it is really good.
Oh yeah.
Ugh.
Is Doc even here?
No.
You bastard.
I imagine there's at the table is we see the two of you, Vorn, going to town on this stuff, and you're grabbing one of the biscuits, and the camera sort of moves a little bit, and we see Mizya sitting there with just a little bowl of like a porridge.
Half a grapefruit.
There's a porridge, a half a grapefruit, a slice of toast, and a mimosa.
Mimosa, she would. They would have a mimosa.
Person after my own heart.
As you're just doing this, they just pick up the champagne flute. Yes, it is a wonderful, wonderful breakfast.
Awesome. Teera kind of chuckles, but then sort of just goes back to her breakfast. I guess Vorn might notice because we know each other pretty well at this point, but Teera seems tired. Teera seems like she didn't sleep very well.
Teera,
Yeah.
not your usual spunky self. You get any rest then?
Strangely enough, I feel like I got better rest on the road. Didn't sleep too well on the old mattress. Too soft, I guess.
Naturally. You all right?
And
It's
Teera
kinda
kind of
like-
looks.
Yeah.
Teera looks over at Vorn and looks how happy he is, and almost considers for a second about whether or not to say anything, and then is like, "Yeah, I'm fine."
I'm gonna roll a wisdom check just to see if I can pick up on what she's putting down there.
Roll insight.
Insight.
Teera doesn't want to be a bummer. Vorn's clearly having a great day.
Oh, and I crushed it with a 16.
Oh.
I'd say unless you're actively trying to hide whatever, you can see there's something more that Teera's holding something back.
And he kind of takes a moment and he goes, kind of, pushes the food just like an inch away. And he's like, moving his tusk. Speak your mind, Teera. You're in good company.
Vorn, I know there's no better company, but bad dreams, bad memories. I don't know what to say, Vorn. I didn't have a terribly happy upbringing, so I don't want to
Well.
bring you down. You're having a good day.
Hey, I consider you part of my tribe. So you're not bringing me down. We kind of roll the boat together. I'll tell you what. Anytime you want to talk, anytime you want to spar, anytime you want to let off some steam, you just let me know. What I've learned, I'm beginning to learn. The path is forward. The past is only one part of your story. You get to be the writer of, the next part. Like I said, if you need a sparring buddy, you know, whatever. And kind of raise his mug and then
Cheers.
dips one of the
Thank you.
biscuits in the gravy. You know, whenever you need it.
Thank you, Vaughn. I appreciate that.
Always. Brings the food back to him and gets back to scarfing.
Mm-hmm. I imagine Teera is just eating like some porridge or something with like maybe some eggs, and she starts picking at it again, but she hasn't eaten much of what's in front of her, and she still doesn't seem like she's eating at a super fast pace.
What have you done with the book?
I have it. It's in my pocket. I guess I would eventually, as Vorn regains his focus after his scrambler.
Kind of burps in his mouth.
Yeah, like, well, Vaughn, eventually, when we get the whole gang back together, I found this book. Now, Jake, when along the journey did I find the book? Was it like the first day on our journey?
No,
Would I have...
you were about 2 days outside of Candlekeep, so about four days into your journey back. So it's up to you whether or not you told anybody else about it.
I don't know why I would have hidden it from him. I don't necessarily want all this to happen like off screen, but at the same time, I'm like, so Vorn would probably know about this book, and I'm like, well, once we get the whole gang back together, we should probably talk to old Telesavoste about this. Yeah.
Vorn is one of these with a neck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mind if I take a look at that book there?
Yeah, sure thing. And I hand it to Vorn.
Vorn puts on his reading glasses.
I don't know much about it. There's a little leaflet in there. Don't let it fall out. It's like a map or something. It's got weird writing on it. I can't make hide nor hair of it.
Why don't you go ahead and hand me that book?
Yeah, sure will. There you go. Ba-doom.
Thank you.
I love us so much. I get a kick out of that every friggin' time.
Teera, would you have after finding the map over the last couple days, would you have spent any time looking through the book, reading it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
100%.
thanks for the raid, Games Tavern.
Yay!
Welcome, Raiders.
Games Tavern.
Um,
I'd spend time looking at the book itself, and then I'd probably have spent more time with the map.
Okay.
Honestly, that
So-
strikes me as more significant.
Vorn,
Yeah.
are you just giving this a skim, or are you kind of doing that thing where you start to look at it and then you get pulled in and just start reading?
I'm starting to get a little pulled in, and Vorn asks, Teera, you read any of this?
Yeah, a little bit of it. What part are you at?
What part did you read?
In the beginning. You know, I'm not a big reader. I get bored fast. I like to be up and moving.
Yeah, I get that.
Paragraph here
So-
and there.
Vorn, make me an investigation check real quick.
$15.
Okay. So between what you read through, Teera, and what you're getting through kind of quick skimming, Vorn,
Yeah.
you find while this book is written in a uneven, unsteady hand, this particular book is written in common. There's no indication of who the author of it is. It's basically a journal. It's a first-hand account of a woman who fell off her horse and broke her leg. She was rescued and befriended by Vistani travelers who graciously nursed her back to health. The author and her horse traveled with the Vistani for 3 months, during which time the author spent most of her time laid up in a Vistani Vardo-covered wagon, where she took to writing this particular book to pass the time. Although more than a dozen Vistani are very colorfully described in the tome, Only 2 are mentioned by name. Drasha, a teenage girl who applied bandages and poultices to the author's wounded leg, and Darzan, a one-armed boy with a terrible fear of wolves who sang beautiful songs to help the author take her mind off the pain. The book provides a very detailed account of the Vistani way of life, with an emphasis on their food and their music. Their overland journey is also discussed, albeit from a viewpoint of somebody who spent most of it from inside a covered wagon. The author describes rough roads, days of travel through impenetrable mists and thick forests, crackling fires on cold nights, wolves howling in the dead of night, and ravens pecking at the roof of the wagon in the wee hours of the morning. Late in the book, the author writes about being able to hobble about on crutches. She describes the cheery mood of her benefactors as the Vistani caravan traveled a winding mountain road to the gates of a tall, dark castle. The book ends with a description of the castle's dreadful countenance, and then the writing abruptly stops on the third to the last page, suggesting that the book was snatched from the author in mid-sentence. The last 2 pages are blank. You learn the following information from your reading of this book. The Vistani are planar travelers, often encountered in the Shadowfell, and they seem to be immune to the despair that besets all other visitors to that plane. They travel in horse-drawn, barrel-shaped wagons and have no permanent home. The Vistani display their wealth openly as a sign of prosperity, sharing their good fortune with friends and strangers alike. Vistani resolve disagreements through contests that end with reconciliatory singing, dancing, and storytelling. Vistani...
Vorn, like literally like does that while he's reading that
Weak.
Vistani families can be big or small, but each family is a gerontocracy with the oldest member ruling the roost. The elder has the most of the responsibility for enforcing traditions, settling disputes, setting the course for the group's travels, and preserving the Vistani way of life. The Vistani have the power, some say the gift, to travel through mists that lead to forlorn realms within the Shadowfell, known as Domains of Dread, where creatures born in darkness dwell. This gift was thrust upon them by mysterious entities called the Dark Powers, as a boon for their kindness towards strangers. The Vistani believe that ravens carry lost souls within them. Hence, killing a raven is considered bad luck in Vistani culture. So you learn all of that through readings and you're a quick study with your reading goggles in particular. The book's only 27 pages long, 25 of which are filled.
Vorn looks over at Teera and he explains everything that you just said. I was hoping Mizya would explain it all to us, but I'll take Jake's explanation. And he goes, Teera, you notice these last 2 pages here? It almost as if the writer was interrupted and stopped. Someone snatched this book, and he kind of like hands the book back over to Teera and he goes, here.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. I did notice that. I didn't think too much of it, to be honest.
Look how the ink kind of like just trails as if the book was yanked away.
Yeah, it's like she didn't finish. Like I said, I didn't think much of it. It's a little journal. It's not 30 pages. You know.
Yeah. But
People keep journals
on it,
all the
right?
time. Yeah. Seems pretty I mean, it's interesting. The Vistani are an interesting people, but
You
They reconcile by singing
yeah,
and dancing
right.
at the end.
I noticed that
Can you
too.
believe
What did I
You-
do?
I'm so sorry, Jason.
you just hear
Okay,
this.
hold on, we
You just
stopped.
hear this little, and
Oh shit!
you see Mizya just sort of setting neatly down their spoon in their empty bowl of porridge, taking the last sip of mimosa, picking up a cloth napkin, and yes, these stories are all wonderful bits, and of course, you've grasped onto the least important detail. It's very clear that the reason the author trails off at the last moment is that they were taken to Castle Ravenloft.
Oh.
I can see by your dull expressions that you don't know what I'm talking about. Suffice it to say,
So-
Castle Ravenloft is ruled by a dark lord in a place known as Barovia, by an evil vampire by the name of Strad von Zarovich. I should hope our travels take us nowhere near such a place.
I guess I should hope so too. Mizya, you're making it seem very, very scary. And I look over at Vorn and kind of like roll my eyes a little bit.
Singing. Has anyone seen Doc?
Before we get to
That's not
that,
his way to.
before we get to that,
He's on his way to
Vorn,
Smith.
you also find at the end of this book, tucked in the back, is the map that Teera had found. That would be this map. Nope, not that map.
Nope.
That would be this map. This map displays a what appears to be a nicely illustrated but not at all to scale map showing several locations, a town by the name of Whichway, some other locations. There's rivers and forests located on the map, and there appears to be red lines that might indicate roads. At the top it says in very elegant writing, "Evil beware." And at the bottom right corner of the map is a riddle. Teera, I believe you have the riddle.
Yeah, I do. I will read it aloud. It says, follow the trail to the Hand and Horn. Past. What is that word? I can't read. What is that word? Seriously,
this
bro.
is Teera reading it, so
Okay.
That's fine.
Past something hill.
Hold on.
Mizya
River
just
One.
goes, that's 3 tree.
3 tree. Thank you, Mizya. 3 tree hill over River One to the Worm's Mark in the foggy moors. West of there, the treasure's yours. That rhymes. Past 3 Tree Hill. I've never heard of 3 Tree Hill. Mizya, you know what that is? Born, you know what that is?
With a long, slender finger, she just
Never
points in the middle of the map at a spire of rock with 3 trees drawn upon it. It would appear as though that is 3 Tree Hill. This
Yeah.
here is a bridge, the wood bridge, that crosses over the river. Here, you see the Hand and Horn. I would dare say those are probably rock formations. Down here, you see something called the Scorch of the Red Worm, perhaps a volcano or a caldera. And there, just to the left, or as indicated by the arrow in the lower left-hand corner, that this pointing straight up is north, that would be to the west. This
What?
building or town, perhaps, being where the treasure is. It appears to me that we must first find which way. And from there, follow the course of this map to find whatever that is.
Yeah. I mean, if the good people at Candlekeep are all about us undertaking this adventure, doesn't seem like it's gonna result in any books or any profit for them.
Speaking of books, does Candlekeep operate like a general library where one can check out a book?
You would have to talk to one of the sages or the avowed, such as Irony.
They probably let you check out a book for
I would hope so. I like to check out. Well, Vorn is going to consider that. And the next time he comes across one of the sages, he's going to try to see if he can borrow a book next time.
We're going to cut to happening more or less concurrently with this breakfast and little breakfast reading. We see from inside the smithy where in the stables where Carol Hammerbind is currently feeding putting fresh hay into some of the stalls and also strapping up a couple of feed bags to some of the horses in there, when the doorway is filled with the shadow form of one Doc and a slightly smaller floating form of Frank the Flower Pot.
Nice. Awesome. I love.
Let me see if he notices you. For a couple moments as you're standing there, Doc, Carol just goes about feeding the horses, and then he gets to the third horse and he just says, "Right, I see you standing there. I can't talk to you if you're not going to come in here. Seriously. It's just you and me, and you're going to raise your hand. Unless you want me to slap your high five. Out with it.
Hello.
Hello?
I understand you might have some scrap metal.
What are you looking for scrap metal for?
Oh, I'm looking to build something.
Alright, you've got my curiosity. What are you trying to build?
I'm going to build a clockwork songbird.
Oh.
Alright. Now, you've got my attention. A clockwork songbird, you say?
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to just want any scrap metal. You're going to want something that's a bit thinner. You're going to want something that's a little bit easier to work with. Perhaps something like brass or copper. Maybe a little bit of silver. I might have what you're looking for.
Oh, that's wonderful.
What are you going to do with this songbird?
I'm going to make him my friend.
You see for a moment his eyes just dart over to the floating flower pot.
I can have more than one friend, you know.
I didn't see anything to the contrary.
Frank
Listen.
won't be jealous. He's a very generous flower pot. Right, Frank?
Right. All right. Let's, I'll tell you what, come here.
Okay.
And he sort of motions you over to the far side towards the back where there's a whole area where you can see there's a fire. There's a couple of areas where you can see very hot fire burning in in concentrated areas. There's several blacksmithing tools. There's a smelter, lots of molds for pouring various things, heavy aprons. And off to one side, there's a couple of barrels with the tops off. And in one is a bunch of boards of various lengths, scraps of wood. And in the other are quite a few bits of scrap metal. Right. All of that is stuff that I'm either going to melt down for whatever else, or will probably stay in that barrel for who knows how long. You're welcome to look around in there and see what you can find.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Go ahead and make me an investigation check.
I would like to roll with advantage, please.
Certainly.
Nice.
That is
I
a
guess I can take us back to our main screen.
22.
All right. So
Hey.
as with a 22, as you're digging around in this barrel, you actually find a couple of pieces. For larger projects, they wouldn't be noticeable for much of anything, but for your purposes, you find a couple pieces of pure untarnished brass and copper, and you find a small amount of silver. I don't know, do you have to make any rolls when you're tinkering to make your things?
I would assume that I could make a Tinker's Tools check. I don't have anything specific that says I can make a songbird, but Tinker's Tools seems like it would.
I
work.
will say, because of the role in investigation, the quality of materials, you will get advantage on your
Ooh.
roll to
Nice.
on your roll to make this songbird.
Okay. So I will use the equipment that's before me, and I will. Okay, that's not bad. 19.
Okay,
Oh.
so there's a after you dig through and you find what you're looking for, and then you just move over to Kirill's workbench and you start using his tools and start tinkering away. He stops what he's doing and he starts to come over. Like, he's at the far side feeding one of the horses further down, and he hears the ting 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 ting, and all of a sudden he just in the corner he's like, oh, by all the gods, you don't just use another man's. An individual's Smith is his private, and he's rolling up his sleeves. I'm gonna have words with it. And by the time he gets up and sees what you're doing, right? And he never actually says anything to you. He just goes over to the side and he grabs a stool and pulls it over and climbs up and just sits there with his arms crossed and just watches you as you continue to make this songbird. And because you rolled a 19 with it, I'll say, tell us what you make.
It's a tiny little songbird. There's a central gear which makes the wings go up and down, and the beak flat. And it only hums a tune that's maybe 4 seconds long. But at the sort of crescendo of its tune, it squawks a little spark.
Oh,
And I'm gonna put it in the palm of my hand, and I'm gonna show it to the stable man, and I'm gonna say, look, I made a new friend.
made it new.
He reaches into the pocket of his apron and he pulls out a very small set of pince nez, however you say that, the little round spectacles that
Go right on.
fit right onto his nose. And he leans in close.
Oh.
Oh, by Moradin, that is some of the finest craftsmanship I've seen. There's nary a tool mark on this thing. If I didn't see it with my own two eyes, I would never have believed. Your hands made no offense to you by no means. But I wouldn't have thought. that you can make something so small and detailed and delicate. And then he takes the glasses off. Truly, this is a masterpiece. And Doc, when you look up, you are not looking at Carol Hammerbind. You see a man who is a dwarf, but he has thick, coarse, black hair and beard, angular features of a mountain dwarf. He wears ornate blue robes with gold trim, and he holds a monocle up to his eye and seems to be peering towards you. And then he looks off at something at the side and he says, truly, this is a masterpiece. It's some of the finest work you've done to date, Doctor.
Oh, thank you. I already have a name picked out. Hopefully it doesn't mind.
Right. I would suggest against naming such a creature. Don't grow too attached to it.
Why?
The dwarf pulls the monocle down and looks at you. I brought you here for your expertise. I brought you here for the knowledge you possess and the skills you have shown. I let your stupid ass comments go because of your skill. Don't try my patience.
I'm not trying to.
Let's keep it that way. We'll have little more than a 10-day before it reaches its full potential. In the meantime, I suggest you be careful. He turns and he walks away through the door, leaving you alone with the aforementioned creation. You turn to look back at it. You see at your feet the thick spikes of metal that are driven through iron bands that hold the heavy chain into the stone. As you look, the chain uncoils a little bit more and pulls taut. You're looking into the shadow where the chain leads away from you through iron bars 2 inches thick. As you step forward, first of all, as you step forward, to your left, there is a circle about 2 feet in diameter of polished silver. You catch your reflection. What color are your eyes?
Gray.
Your skin is not quite tan, but flush, not a pale gray. Your lab coat is not worn with age. You glance back into the shadows. You're standing right up near the edge of the bars. And suddenly, the thing in the shadows lurches forward towards you, slamming itself against the bars, reaching out, trying to grasp at you. Make a dexterity saving throw.
Oh, God.
I will do so with advantage.
Why not?
Well, I rolled 2 17s, so that'll get me a 19.
You jump back just in time as the long, muscular, but thin arm reaches through and slashes at you, just missing where your chest was moments before. You see powerful claws, hair across the back of the arm, riding up the biceps to the thick shoulders. And you see red, snarling eyes, inch-long teeth at the end, or coming out of a long lupine snout. But this figure towers almost 7 feet tall, slamming against the bars, and with its free hand trying to pull, you hear the straining of the metal. But it can't budge the metal. Missing you, it slowly pulls the long arm back in until it grasps the bars with both hands. And from the shadow, Doc, you hear, "One of these days, I'll be faster than you."
Oh, my God.
And that's where we're going to end tonight's session.
Oh, my God. Wow. What? No.
What were you going to say, Doc? Because you look like you were about to make a comment.
I was.
Go ahead.
What?
Okay. Maybe, but not today.
Adorable. Precious.
I'll get you next time, Gadget.
I knew as soon as I did that voice, there's no way you can do that voice and not. If you're of a certain generation, you
The
can't
90s
immediately
kid in me
think
was like,
of
ding.
Gadget.
I'll get you next time, Gadget. Next time.
You can't help but think of Dr. Claw.
Classic.
All right, well,
Dang. Oh my God.
we were down 2 players, and Dwight and Jordan were sorely missed. I see Jordan hanging out in the chat with us. But we got some major backstory hints and elements of Doc and Teera and Vorn. And we learned a little bit about the new book that they found, the Book of the Raven, and the mysterious map contained within. Next week we'll be back, hopefully, with everybody here, and we'll continue on. I forgot to mention this, just as a reminder, but at the end of last week's session, the party leveled up. They're level 3 now.
There we are.
So at least to a certain extent, for a couple of them, we've seen elements or hints of what's bringing them into their 3rd level. For many characters, 3rd level is where they choose their destiny, so to speak. They make that decision of what path they're going to take, what fighter archetype, or what have you. So decisions were made, and yeah, I had a lot of fun with tonight's session. I always love when we can take some time and peer into the depths of the other characters and see what they're doing. I gotta say, one of my favorite moments, though, was the Superman / Boy Who Could Fly moment between Doc and Little One.
By far my favorite moment.
I just imagine that in one of the towers of the library proper, some old sage was waking up and pouring himself a little nip for the morning out of his flask, looked out and saw a man in a lab coat and an ogre flying up through the sky and made a very important decision to stop drinking that morning.
Guess I picked the wrong day to quit sniffing glue.
All right. Well, as a reminder, there will not be a Dawnbringers game this week, nor will there be one next week. We are on a hiatus for the next couple of weeks. I have a couple games that are sort of up in the air, but are tentatively scheduled, barring circumstances, I guess. Tomorrow, we're potentially going to be playing Curse of Strahd over on Dice on Ice RPG. And still waiting on one or two to weigh in whether or not we will be doing the finale of Curse of the Mummy Lord on Wednesday over on Big Bearded Nerd 21. That's going to be, I think, partly dependent on Dwight's power situation, which is why he wasn't here tonight, since Dwight is the host of that game. And then this
Get your shit together, Dwight. Sorry.
this
Okay.
coming Sunday, which I believe is the 22nd, I will be on CFT RPG on Twitch for Skull and Bones episode 2 of a 3-part pirate campaign that Alan from CFT RPG is DMing. I'm playing along with Chad, Nick, Jeremy, Lilly, Lloyd, and Taylor. An absolutely amazing crew. I had a previous obligation, so I couldn't play in the first session, so I think he threw my Minotaur bosun into the brig or got captured or something, so we'll find out on Sunday. Anybody else got anything going on in the next week? Any
Not I.
games, charity events? All right. Well, hey, I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody who tuned in tonight. Thank you. Grand Lorian, about 20 minutes ago, rated us with a party of 8. And the Games Tavern rated us earlier, also with a party of 8. Picked up a couple of new followers tonight. We had an anonymous sub gift. So we appreciate that, which those subs and things award the players the domain tomes, and allow them to do things like rolling with advantage and such. If you are one of those folks lurking quietly in the background, not participating in the chat, thank you. We appreciate you all the same. There is nothing wrong with just sitting quietly and listening to a game. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, I have to say a huge thank you to Gary, Cari, Ricky, and even though they're not here, Dwight and Jordan, such amazing players. I find it a privilege to get to run this campaign where hashtag Mondays are fun again. Without these 5 amazing people, it would just be me talking to myself for 2.5 hours. So with that, we are... Oh, Jordan's not even saying anything in the chat, but I can still hear it. I've got to take a quick look, see who's streaming, to make sure, see if we're going to raid somebody. You know what? I see my buddy Dr. Faust Painting Clinic is running some painting stuff over on his channel. I was just looking at an absolutely amazing miniature he painted recently. So we're going to raid Dr. Faust. So please be sure to tell the doctor that if I can spell doctor right, good Lord. There we go.
Oh.
Tell the doctor that Mini Terrain Domain has sent you. Throw those MTD emotes or whatever you got in there. Let them know that the Mini Terrain Domain sends their love. And with that, I think we're going to go ahead and get out of here. We are going to end this stream the same way we end every stream. And you can say it with me if you want. It's a dead.
Yeah.